Support the channel on patreon.com/manlightfoot. Welcome to Simple Thoughts. Today is going to be another episode of Hot Thoughts for Hot Takes, where I pretty much take your animation hot takes and either dismantle them or prove that they actually have some merit to them. This has always been a fun game I like doing, and it allows me to engage with you guys, so let's not beat around the bush anymore and just get right to it. This one from Gem Force. Outside of a few shows we lose interest in or stop covering too many animated shows that could use more support. Look at the new Looney Tunes. They still make great cartoons, but none of us, myself included, talk about it. Well, yeah, and I'll admit even I'm kind of guilty of this. As we get older into our YouTube careers in terms of cartoon YouTubers, we start to kind of fade away from talking about new stuff. We kind of regressed back into just doing archival like video essays. Like we talk about old stuff we grew up with and watched and just talk about nowadays, and there's nothing wrong with that by all means. You know, you're just sharing your personal experience. That's what most YouTubers do anyway. But it's one of those things where it's like new stuff comes out and a lot of the time we don't push it forward. That was my main goal, is that originally I was all about wanting to push new and interesting things, and I still kind of do that, but I kind of slowed down mainly because I got overwhelmed. It started getting overwhelming where it's like new stuff, and it's like I got to a point I'm like, I just want to watch just to watch. I don't want to have to get up and make a video essay because now it doesn't feel like there's the passion anymore, you know? That's the mindset we've developed. We're just at that point where we're thinking, I am okay with talking about it on like in a tweet, but making a whole video, it's one of those things where it's like, for a lot of us, we want to sit with it, actually let it grow and fester and become something that it's like, yeah, when I really think about it, it really was amazing. You know, that's what we kind of want to think about with this. But with a lot of these like movies and shows, we got to the point where we're just like, it's great, or I'm not in love with it for some stuff, or it's just there's so much happening in my life I just can't put the time and effort into making a whole essay. Like a lot of us are moving past YouTube. Even some of us even go as far as to join the animation industry and make these cartoons ourselves, or we're just making our own indie like stuff. If anything, I want to see like more people in toon space like come up on YouTube and push, you know, more in like obscure stuff or new obscure stuff that's coming out, you know, really help those like crews and creators out. That's the main thing. I mean, I try to do somewhat of what I can, but like I said, there's kind of an overabundance that it's like I can't get to all of it as I wish I could. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like stuff gets overwhelming and we just can't get to all of it. But what can you do? That's just how things are. This one from Harry on a Hook. Ooh, my hot take. Y'all gotta stop saying something is bad writing when it's a creative decision that you don't like. That is a good hot take. That I give merit to that one, because that is often a problem people have when it comes to critiquing things. They manage to see some piece of media and they'll see something happen with a character and they'll dislike how that thing was handled. But in the grand scheme of things, it actually makes perfect sense why it was handled that way. One case was Steven Universe Future. People really hated the creative decision not to have like the gems beat the shit out of Monster Steven or so. And it's just like, there's a reason for that. The reason why they didn't have Steven get the pulp beat out of him was because those are his friends. They love him. They don't want to hurt him, and hurting him would kind of not solve the problem. He's clearly having PTSD problems and such, and mental problems and all that. The solution is not beat the shit out of a mentally ill person or someone having a mental breakdown. That does not solve anything. You've just beaten the shit out of a mentally ill person. There are some decisions that's a little bit like, did you need to do that? That felt a little bit like, why? Like, for example, say Star vs. the Force of Evil. They end the whole series off with Star basically erasing magic, but that also included magic beings, and we see a few magic beings are just gone. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, that was a crazy creative decision. And yeah, sometimes a creative decision can be like that's kind of why'd you do that category, and Star is kind of a big case of that. If the creative decision makes sense to the characters, the themes that the show or movie is going for, then really you just gotta judge it based on whether or not it works. I would say, you know what I mean? Versus just what you personally wanted. Because what you personally wanted can oftentimes be worse than what the actual decision was. So it's just one of those things where it's like, think about whether or not it actually works to what's going on, to what's been building up, versus just being mad that it's not the decision you would have made. You know, if you wanted to make that decision, you could have get to writing. Open a Google Doc, find free script writing software and start writing, you know. Anyone can write. This one from Timothy Reviews. I absolutely love Into the Spider-Verse. It's a great movie with beautiful animation. However, nothing about it screams the best Spider-Man film. Don't get me wrong, it's in my top 5 Spider-Man films. I just don't think it's the best of them all.
Damn!
Boy, that is a surely spicy take. Like, I guess I can semi-understand it, but I'm sorry, to me, the way Into the Spider-Verse is, it feels closer or sort of akin to Batman the Animated Series, rest in peace to Kevin Conroy. It's sort of that it feels quintessential Spider-Man, you know what I mean? Like, that's what the Batman Animated Series worked as. It's like, it's not someone's interpretation of the character or his adventures. It's more that this is just pure, unadulterated Spider-Man, pretty much. That's what Into the Spider-Verse captures, because it captures everything that is Spider-Man. You know, the only difference is that the main focus is Miles Morales and not Peter Parker. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's captured everything. You know, we have the understanding of great power, great responsibility, having that loss at his own failures and everything, his growth into the role. Like, it just feels like this is essential Spider-Man. It makes sense that people's put it at the top. And with all the live action ones, there's a lot of varying qualities to them, and it makes sense that some people don't like a lot of them. You know, even with, say, recently with No Way Home, it's a great film, but it needed a lot of build-up to be that great. Into the Spider-Verse got it right like that. Like, literally on the first try. Where it didn't need multiple movies before it exactly. Like, it's not a sequel. It's just straight up right on the first, out the gate. That's why it makes sense that it's at the top. It's the best Spider-Man because it just feels so quintessential. That's really it. This one from Rod's Variety. I've always thought of animation like hip-hop. Both have different styles for many audiences and can tell a wide variety of stories. However, both are taken for granted by mostly old head mentality, but in their own way. Yeah, that is a take I can agree with. It is sort of that thing where it's like, it's this unique thing with animation. Sure, animation came before hip-hop, but it kind of got to a point that in this day and age, there is a bit of old head mentality kind of working against it, not really properly understanding how things work nowadays. You know, like a good example of this was like, there was like these old time animators who were watching the new Looney Tunes cartoons that are on HBO Max, and they just don't like how it's animated. Sure, some of the animated shorts are a little bit wonky because they're like kind of noticeably on rigs, but others actually look really nice. But they really just don't realize, like, the way animation is done nowadays, the new methods and techniques is actually different from what you grew up on, you know? That's just sort of the thing that I think a lot of the old heads just need to recognize, is like, things are different. They're not going to be the same. You gotta just you gotta go with the flow, you know? You gotta keep up with the times. And that gatekeeping mentality, I don't think is helpful for anybody. Like, that's just it. Like, I'm glad the old head mentality ain't that strong. That's the one good thing about it. You know, it's not having as much sway. But it's just one of those things where it's like, you guys could learn to like get with the times. That's really what has to happen on that front. This one from Flarky64. Avatar spoilers. Aang's battle with Ozai in the finale is easily the weakest battle of the three. While Katara, Sokka, and Toph use their newly acquired skills and development to expertly turn the tides and secure the win, Aang just gets hit against a rock in just the right place. That's not payoff, that's dumb luck.
Damn, nigga!
Boy, that's a spicy take that a lot of the Avatar fanboys are probably gonna jump down your throat for, and they're probably gonna jump down my throat too, because I actually kind of agree. Yeah, when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, Sokka, Toph, and Katara do handle their own in that battle. Like, we significantly see that she actually handles herself against Zuko's sister. It's kind of crazy. It's like Sokka's holding his own. He broke his leg, but they were able to get by because Suki was there. And then Toph was on point. Everybody was on point, but Aang, in his final battle, literally it was just dumb luck that he got sent into the Avatar state. Like, he was getting walked. Like, that's kind of the thing to think about, is like, Aang was getting walked. It wasn't until he just randomly turned into the Avatar state that he was able to turn the tides. So, if anything, yeah, it's easy to say that Aang kinda is not the strongest in his fights, and he wasn't really holding off that fight that well. It really was a kind of dumb luck that he won in the end. But I don't know. Come at me, Avatar fans. This one from Orange Sleestack. Good animation can make up for a bad story. Sometimes the point of animation is setting a mood / making a point, i.e. Children of the Sea, Mad God, Girl from the Other Side. Pretending that animation is only used to prop up a story is disrespectful. Sit down and enjoy the experience. I can actually somewhat agree with that. Like, there is a case where people think animation only works to just build up a story or just help enhance the story, and sometimes that can be the case, but sometimes something is meant to be just for the craft, to build up the craft. The biggest example of this is Fantasia. Like, it's literally just a pure celebration of animation. There's no real overarching narrative. They're all a bunch of shorts that are just there to showcase the technique of animation or the craft of animation. And that's kind of the thing, is that we kind of don't do that as often anymore. A lot of time animation is used to tell a story instead of just being a unique experience to enjoy. Don't get me wrong, there's like plenty of indie like shorts where they're just showcasing animation styles and techniques and such, and those are always a joy to watch. But now, a lot of time you're getting stuff that's mainly shorts, and you kind of understand why. A lot of people are just in the vein of like, they can't watch stuff without a narrative. Like, a lot of people need a narrative, and that's why a lot of people don't even like watching Fantasia even. And some of the examples, particularly like Mad God, I saw that movie, and even I can admit it's tricky to get into. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, you have this unique thing going for you, but I don't understand what's happening at all. It's like a lot of imaginative imagery, creative use of like stop motion and such, and blending some styles even, but holy crap, do I not know what this is going on, because it's pretty much all silent. And that's where it's like, there's a happy medium to that I think we should be building on. We should get more just animation for the sake of animation's sake. Like, I would like to see more of that, just pushing the craft. But what can you do? Like, more people like narratives. They like being able to follow a story, follow a protagonist or something. And if they can't follow that, a lot of people get turned off. That's just kind of the reality of it all. This one from Goldie Rex 945. Kids shows / movies shouldn't be considered bad just because people out the targeted audience doesn't like it, especially when said show / movie isn't trying to cater to older audiences. I would actually agree with that. When you think about it, it's like a lot of people tend to get mad at a show or movie because it's not catering to their particular tastes, but they're watching it, but they fail to realize it's not meant for you, so it's not going to get that deep. Case in point, back to Steven Universe, some people have this mindset that, like, say in the movie, like, no one died, like Steven didn't kill anybody or kill Spinell, and it's just like, why would he? Nothing in this says he would, and it's also a kids series. They kind of don't want to show the hero just killing people just because. That's the thing. It's more compelling to watch someone actually have a moral dilemma, for one thing, than just someone who just outright kills. Sure, we can watch a Punisher every now and then, but you don't want everyone to be the Punisher, do you? That wouldn't be fun. But the big thing is that some of these kids shows and movies aren't meant for adults exactly, or sometimes it's just a matter of we know adults are going to have to watch it, so we want to put some things here and there in it, but we don't want to put like the super most mature stuff that's like, yeah, kids shouldn't be watching this. That's the one thing. Like, it just isn't going to cater to you, and you shouldn't expect it to. That's the big thing you should recognize, that not everything is for you. Some stuff is just meant to be for a certain group. You know, if you don't like it, go watch something else. There's plenty to choose from. Like, there's honestly an overabundance of stuff to choose from. This one from Pedanticat. Hunter's relationship with Gus and Willow feels deeper than Luce's relationship with the two. I actually had to think about that one for a second. Like, because when I thought about it, it's like, at first I had a knee-jerk reaction to think, no, they're about the same. But then the more I really thought about it as the series was going on, yeah, Hunter and Luce kind of do differentiate in terms of their friendship to Gus and Willow. And Hunter kind of does have a stronger connection to them because he kind of helped them through more of their problems, in a sense. Like, Luce still obviously feels like good friends with both Gus and Willow, but with Hunter, it does feel like he got to actually experience more of their low points than Luce ever did. And the show did the best that they could with what they had, and so, but with Hunter's story, it's like, yeah, he has this deep problem going on, and Gus and Willow being that thing that he can lean on, I think was kind of for the best. We got a lot more because of that. If anything, it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, wish we could have gotten more of Luce and Gus and Willow's friendship being built upon, but you know, things happen. That's just the sad reality of it. But it's still great. Don't get me wrong. Like, the Owl House is still great, and what we got is still amazing. It's just, wish we could have been allowed to get more. Wish the crew was allowed to be able to build more than what they had. But for what they did, still great. This one from Kiwi Ingley. The third era is the best era of Cartoon Network. The most consistent, the most memorable, and the highest rated shows. I almost had a knee-jerk reaction and almost said no, but as I was thinking about it, I'm like, no, that actually makes perfect sense. Like, the third era pretty much is basically Adventure Time and going forward, like from the 2010s and to basically to 2020, like that, from that decade of Cartoon Network. And when you think about all the shows that came out at that time, you know, we had Regular Show, Steven Universe, obviously Adventure Time, like I mentioned, you know, Uncle Grandpa, which some people laughed at, Clarence, Craig of the Creek, Over the Garden Wall, Infinity Train. We did have a lot of really good shows. Like, there were some bangers in that mix. There was a lot of really good shows that came out in the 2010s for Cartoon Network that kept it very stable. Like, it was all consistent, like hit after hit after hit. And if anything, yeah, it makes sense to say that was the best era. now we're in 2020, and right now things are looking a little bleak for Cartoon Network, sadly. But that was still like a good era to think back on compared to the second and first era. It's the one where storytelling got more unique and dynamic for Cartoon Network. You know, they were allowed to get into their weird bag. They were able to show that it's like we can utilize different types of stories. We can tell LGBTQ plus type of stories even. Like, they broke ground on that. So it's easy to say that it's like, yeah, the third era ended up trumping out all those last ones. Before, like, you got to give props to it. Like, they really pushed boundaries and it paid off really well. Now, this one is basically, these are from two people, but they're in the same category. It's from Tune for Thought and also Jason Blade. Adult cartoons are doing perfectly fine in regard to art and genre diversity, and we should stop pretending so much of it is bad, especially when there are so many gems out there deprived of positive attention. And Jason Blade, I don't know if this is much of a hot take, but I do believe that modern adult animation should be recognized more and has improved significantly within the past decade and has become well more diverse with relationships and storytelling. Yeah, at the end of the day, people like to complain because there's been like some very annoying adult animated shows or just stuff that feels too standard. But at the end of the day, adult animation has gotten significantly better. Like, it's actually a lot more compelling to watch. They're willing to go deeper into their stories and not just sit on just shock value or pure just, oh, this is what's politically happening, or this is what's happening in the real world, and we're just making jokes at its expense a lot of the time. I mean, sure, some of that does happen, but now stuff is willing to actually get compelling, willing to tell deeper stories, more personal stories, and it is kind of a disservice to just kind of wipe it away because you saw something like frickin' Fairview, you know, that show nobody watched, or The Prince, which, again, that show nobody watched. Like, I get that it's annoying that you see those things, but stuff exists, you know, but you don't have to always watch everything. There's good stuff out there. I hear the show Pantheon is great. If you want to watch Johnny Tuccello's video on it, I suggest you do. There's always Undone, obviously BoJack Horseman, Rick and Morty, to an extent, kind of edges the line on that whole stuff. Chuka and Birdie, which sadly we lost. But at the end of the day, like, adult animation is starting to get very diverse now in its storytelling and its characters and everything. Like, we are actually in a kind of decent renaissance for adult animation. I honestly want to say we're in a good spot with adult animation nowadays. That's going to do it for this round of Hot Thoughts for Hot Takes. This was very fun, and I enjoy engaging with you guys in some way or form, and this is just like the best way to do it. I love being able to hear your animation hot takes and just see whether or not they have some merit, or even kind of disprove some of them if I can. Also, leave your own hot takes in the comments section. I'm always curious to hear what some of you guys have to say. It can also inspire me on some stuff, and it keeps my brain going pretty well. You know, it's a good way to just tease the brain a little bit. But always remember, it's just a thought.